That's just everyday relationship. When you get with your friends, you don't want anybody coming to ask you anything and you don't even talk to me. Who are you? God is the same way. So make him a priority. Make him a priority. You must make him a priority. And God is smart. He's not stupid. He's not crazy. He knows the stuff that we're not saying. He knows the stuff that we're not thinking. He knows you better than you know yourself. Which in Job's case was why he bragged about him so much. Oh, I know him. I know him. He's good. You try him. Go ahead and do that. Try him. Do that. He knew he was gonna win. He knew he was gonna come out of that situation victorious. He knew that. Again, God is not getting ready to make nobody, especially not Satan, make a fool out of him. And if you trust him, he won't let anyone make a fool out of you either. Oh, Jesus. You must follow instructions. For the best results for your life, follow instructions. God set rules for a purpose. He did not set them for you not to follow them. And that is for everyday life. He set rules. You must follow rules. You must follow the law. You cannot go around just doing whatever you want to do whenever you feel like doing it just because the wind is blowing today. You must follow the rules. Let's not be wishy-washy and hypocritical. We cannot be wishy-washy and hypocritical and think that God honors that. He wants truthfulness. He wants honesty. He wants relationship. He wants you to be open and honest with him. He wants you to tell him what's wrong before he had to come to you and ask you. That's the type of relationship that he wants. He doesn't want to have to say, what's wrong with you today? Why you acting crazy? Why you acting like that? Why you got an attitude today? If you don't have an attitude, why your face look like that? Like he doesn't want to have to do that. You should be able to go ahead and say, Jesus, okay now, today ain't the day. We're gonna have to do something about this right here because today is not the day. He likes that. He loves that. That's what he wants. Remember, God is always watching. He's omnipresent. He sees you when nobody else sees you. So be mindful what you do, what you say, how you act. Because he sees you and he's taking notes. It's just as simple as that. He sees you. Stay focused. This is a personal thing. You can't be worried about what other people doing and why so-and-so got away with it. But if I do it, I'm getting in trouble. Their walk is not your walk. You have to stay focused. And let me tell you, it is very hard. I'm talking to the children. It's very hard, even with being a grown adult. It's difficult to sometimes stay focused, especially when you know, oh, no, you ain't no good business doing that. Really? Like, that's what you do. Oh, okay. It's hard sometimes, but you have to stay focused, and that goes along with, again, being mature. You can't keep paying attention to everybody, because eventually, if you keep paying attention to everybody, then you done took your focus off God. So you must stay focused. These steps are to ensure you that you can be a great champion in your everyday walk with God. So let's live our best life. Let's rise above Satan and his tricks. Let's do what God tells us to do. Let's fight the good fight as champions. And let's not forget the rule of be wild.
bishop, my dad right here, and everybody in their respective places, and everybody who makes up the beautiful congregation. I will be coming from Psalms 23. And it reads, "The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures, and he leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul, and he leadeth me in the path of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I may walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me, and thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemies, and thou anointest my head with oil, and my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever." All right, so go ahead and turn to your neighbor and tell them, "Yes, I am anointed." Yes, I am anointed. All right, so the setting for Psalm, King David, who wrote Psalm, grew up and worked as a shepherd. So he knew a lot about sheep and shepherding, of course. He used the metaphor of seeing God or the Lord as the shepherd. The shepherd's job, and the definition of that, is to take care of his flock, making sure the sheep are good, safe, nourished, taken care of, and happy at all times. We all know that sheep are vulnerable to danger, the wolves and the predators, because they can't run very fast and they're not smart. But they are, to care for them correctly and safely, sheep require a good shepherd to take care of them and to keep them and guide them to the fertile areas to graze, and to protect them from other hazards and keep them together so they don't stray away from the group. This is basically the job of the shepherd, and one can extend this idea and say that God does this for us. And if we submit to his will, he will surely do that. Now, to break down the 23rd Psalms by phrase, the Lord is my shepherd. This basically proclaims the metaphor for the psalm, that God is our shepherd. That is, he helps us to find food, work, love, friendship, friends, anything that we need. He also protects us from the evil. He also gently or firmly guides us when we step out of line or deviate from the way of living set out in the Bible. And you go to "I shall not want." And this is a very powerful statement to me, because although it is not explained in detail in the psalm until later, it's interpreted that I will have everything I need if I allow God to be my shepherd. I may not have everything I want or the ego wants, but I will be cared for, loved, provided, and very well indeed. This is one of the most powerful lines in the prayer, in my opinion, but because it is a blunt and frank statement or affirmation. Now, "I shall not want" means I will be okay. I will have health, money, friends, family, respect, love, and all else. Now, the line is short of wakes up one from the dead and says you can have it all, at least what you need, when you elect to have God over your life. Now, later in the prayer, this idea is explained more, but you have the control of what you want all the time. Now, always wanting things is a miserable way to live, but a common one. So turn to your neighbor and ask them, "Are you a God user or are you a God abuser?" The same idea is expressed in the 10th commandment given to Moses in the Old Testament. "You shall not covet your neighbor's house. You shall not covet your neighbor's wife, or his male or female servant, his ox or donkey, or anything that belongs to your neighbor." So this is another way of understanding that line of the psalm. The next verse 2, is "He maketh me lie down in green pastures." Now, sheep require plenty of green pasture on which to graze or to eat. Now, so at one level, this line means God will provide all of the food and all the other needs. It depends and repeats the idea that I shall not want for anything, and that God cares for me. At a deeper level, it means that God provides nourishment for the body, the mind, and the soul that is wholesome, healthful, and appetizing for me. Now, it does not say that I must struggle to make ends meet. It simply says that God will lead me to the green pastures, which means all things go. So notice that it says, maketh me to lie down. It does not say suggest that I lie down.
Watch it.
At times we are forced to rest, and that is an aspect of retracing. And then it says, he leadeth me beside the clear or still waters. This continues the theme of the previous psalm, that the waters may represent peace, love, harmony, and beauty. Then it says, he restoreth my soul. When someone is retracing old traumas to restore health and joy, one often feels that the soul has been somehow lost or stolen or destroyed. This line is extremely comforting for those who have the feeling about that lives. Now, it says, he leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. When one is healing and retracing, often one does not know in what direction to turn or to go. Now, this assures one that the Lord will lead you in the directions of the righteousness, meaning the paths that are wholesome and full of integrity. So, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. So, for many people undergoing the journey of healing, this is the most important line in the psalm. Though certainly not the only important one, but it tells us that yes, you may walk through difficult territory in your life. However, you need not to fear, for the Lord is with you. One indeed often needs to move back into the issues and health conditions that need correcting, healing, and perhaps reframing into a different understanding. Anyone who has done it knows that this may be the case. Now, thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Traditionally, shepherds carried a rod and a staff to guide the sheep, and to ward off wolves or predators that would harm the sheep. Now, this metaphor is simply that the Lord also has his rod and his staff to guide us. You may get prodded or pushed at times, and it is for your good. It may be for your protection and to keep you on your path. The rod and the staff, in fact, are to comfort you and to know that you are cared for and loved. And he prepares a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. This is a very interesting line. It implies that you will encounter enemies, evil forces, or forces that do not want you to continue your healing. But it also says that you will be taken care of even in the midst of your opponents. Now, it does not just say you will survive. It says that a table or a feast will be spread before you, even while you are in the presence of those forces against you. Now, this is indeed a wonderful fact. Now, thou anointest my head with oil. This is another surprising line because anointing the head with oil was a practice in the biblical days that was used to honor a person and to dignify a person. Now, it means not only will you be fed or cared for in the presence of your enemies or opposers, but you will be honored and dignified or deeply respected as well. Now, in fact, there is something very holy and special about going through that process, which eventually takes us all back to God and perfection. It is far better than just using remedies, whether they be drugs, vitamins, herbs, or others. But this is not easy to understand, but it is true. Then it says, my cup shall overflow. This phrase means that I'm giving more than I need or even can use. Now, the words form a very powerful image of a cup. And when it's being filled up, it overflows, meaning you have more than what you need. It means a truly abundant, abundantly loved and cared for beyond what you need or want. Now, surely goodness and mercy follow me all the days of my life. Now, this can be interpreted in many ways. What is meant by goodness and mercy shall follow me, it's to mean that goodness and mercy shall go with me wherever I go and whatever I do, even if I am unfamiliar with order or places. The use of the word mercy is interesting for me. It implies that all times I will sin, or I will not think or act correctly. So this prayer or psalm does not say we will be perfect. Quite the opposite. However, it means that if we allow the Lord to be our shepherd or guide us or to be our overseer, we will be treated mercifully and leniently. Perhaps our past mistakes will be forgiven, or at least their importance diminished. Now, this has something very profound to do with forgiving the self and letting go of all problems on physical, mental, emotional levels. But it is truly merciful and good in this respect. Going much deeply into healing than most of us are accustomed to. And surely I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Here he reaffirms where one wants to live and have one's being or consciousness. This line is affirmation that one chooses to dwell in a particular state of consciousness forever, the house of the Lord. To me, this is not a physical house, but rather it keeps one's attention focused on the Lord. To live by the rules set down by the Lord, and for you to submit to God's will, and stay with this forever. The words dwell may also be thought or as to abide, which means to embrace, to follow, or to be with. Now, my favorite verse of this whole thing is verse 4, where it says, verse 5, where it says, thou anointest my head with oil. Now, if I can go to my recollection and go of what I was doing on Tuesday evening, I was scrolling up Facebook and I saw a post where it was a sheep, and the shepherd was pouring the oil over his head. And this, in biblical days, when the shepherd pours the oil over the sheep's head, it was simply to protect the sheep. Back in the day, there is insects or bugs that harvest in the head or the nostrils of the sheep, making them tormented, crazy. And they often did slam their head against the wall to kill themselves because it was torment. But that oil is protection, and it was healing, and it was guidance through whatever the sheep needed. So, this Psalm of David, he wrote this psalm because he was going through some trials and tribulations in Samuel, 1st and 2nd Samuel. And he would receive many triumphs and defeats. Now, we all know him to be the man after God's own heart. Now, there's certain things that you may go through and you need to understand, yes, I am anointed. You may go through battles at work, you may go through trials and tribulations at work, but yes, I am anointed. My God has a plan for me. I am protected. Yes, I may not have the money to live here or live there. I may need to downsize to a bigger house, but I am protected. I have shelter. Yes, I may not have a car now, but I have a ride. So David, even though he was forced to live as an outlaw in 1 Samuel, he became a king of not one, but 2 tribes and lands in 2 Samuel. Your today can be different than your tomorrow. He committed adultery in 2 Samuel 11, but then he defeated Goliath. He lied, confessed, repented, and was the cause of Bethesda's death in 2 Samuel 12, but he defeated the Philistines in 2 Samuel 8. And yes, he messed up in all of Samuel, 1st and 2nd, but he was still called a man after God's own heart. So again, tell you to your neighbor and tell them, yes, I am anointed.
Yes, I am anointed.